Hello again and welcome to another episode of the Franchise Everything podcast where we talk about everything and anything franchising. And today I'm joined by the co-founder of City Cave, Tim Butters. G'day Tim, how you doing?
G'day Glenn, good. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, mate. We're at the Frantic Expo, aren't we?
Yes, it is frantic, early in the morning.
And I saw you were walking around for a bit, so I thought, and you were about to head out, aren't you? So I grabbed you for a quick chat.
Absolutely. You do that well.
Yeah, thank you, mate. Because you're back over from the US and that's what I've got you on here for. We're going to talk about how you take an Australian brand and expand it into the US, which is what I know you've been going through all the pains and everything very recently.
Yep.
So, mate, how did you make the decision to do that at City Cave?
So I think a lot of Australian brands really aspire to enter the American market because it's just so big. For us, we felt really inspired to move into that market because of the IFA. We go to the IFA. I know that you would have heard of it.
So what's the IFA, if people don't know?
The International Franchise Association. They have a huge franchising conference every year.
They do it very big, don't they?
Massive, like everything else in America. And it's just a really inspiring place as an up-and-coming franchisor. We kind of it got onto our radar in 2019 where we were in a global competition called the Next Gen. And it's all about the next generation of franchising. It's kind of like the young guns coming up, and we ended up winning it, and we were the first ever international brand to win it. That put us on the global stage in front of 4,500 franchise executives from around the world. So for us, we got really excited at the prospect of growing into that market.
You felt that adrenaline rush there from that.
Yeah,
and this is cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that in Australia, we can learn a lot from doing business in America as well, especially in our business. You know,
so for people who don't know, what do you do? What is
So as you would know, we specialize in flotation therapy, infrared sauna, and massage. Those are our three core modalities.
Yep.
In America, there are incredible franchise brands that specialize in just one of those. You know, Massage Envy, Hand and Stone Massage, or Pause Studios. These guys just do one niche area, and they have thousands of locations.
Yeah.
So I think for us, we don't have that same market penetration here in Australia. So I think we can learn a lot from those big brands and bring that education back to Australia.
Yeah. So the decision to go then. So how did it happen? Who decided? Because that was 2019. You were in the Next Gen.
Yeah.
So at what point there? Because we had COVID and everything. No doubt that got in the way of any dreams to do anything.
Yeah, it did. And you know, in hindsight, we look back at it and we kind of look at it like we were really lucky to experience that really kind of hardship on the front end. You know, we had 17 locations open at that time when we had the COVID lockdowns, and we kind of rolled up our sleeves and got stuck into it and got through it. And we had the biggest growth spurt that we've ever seen post-COVID from a franchisee level, and actually with guests coming in, people trying to take their time back, and also with selling more franchises, which is great.
I remember at the time you were doing, you've probably developed a really tight community.
Yeah,
after that,
absolutely.
Because I remember at the time you were doing like wine webinar nights and stuff.
Yeah, good memory. Yeah,
I do remember it. I see all the content.
We, even though it was super tough for everybody, we became such a tight group. And in franchising, it's probably one of the biggest lessons that I learned with entering the American market is it is all about the franchisees. We are so franchisee focused.
Yep.
And the reason that we're so successful here in Australia is because of those foundation franchisees and those relationships that we built during COVID. And, you know, we all struggled together.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep.
So, okay, you've decided to do it. How did you start it? What was the first step?
So the advice that I give to brands wanting to enter the American market is you have to be willing to have zero ego and you have to start from the beginning. You have to be willing to roll up your sleeves and be a startup again. I find a lot of brands enter the American market with an ego and a bravado of what they've been able to achieve in other countries, and it is completely different, and you have to go in with your eyes wide open. So
what have you found is most different?
Just the culture. You know, they speak English and they look like us and talk like us, but they just everything that they do is completely different. And I'll give you a really key example. We have a location that's open in Florida at the moment, and we went in with the same HR model. So we normally have two, we call them float attendants, running a center, and each person kind of wears multiple hats. So they'll be in flipping rooms in between guests, you know, changing out the towels and kind of cleaning the rooms and things like that. And then they go out to the front counter and they interact with the guest and move them into a membership campaign or whatever that may look like. In America, there's no such thing as a hybrid role. People do one thing and they do it really well. So it means that you need to be hiring for completely different skill sets, which means new employee handbooks and totally different staffing model.
Yeah.
And
And how does that
yeah.
affect the profitability of the business then?
It's
from your model back here in Australia.
So labor is so much cheaper over there. And those two job roles over here in Australia, it's highly paid compared to what that frontline staff would be getting paid in America. But the kind of cleaning aspect, the flipping room side of things is really cheap. So it ends up working out to still be cheaper with more resources and more HR help in America. It actually ends up being more profitable. Everything's broken down into kind of like a leveling system. So insurance is 3 times the price as here. HR is probably 3/4 of the price. Rent is very much the same. Power is quarter the price of what we pay over here. So there's just so many different things, but the net outcome is pretty much spot on in our model anyway. I don't know what it's like for other people, but it's great.
So how did you get all that knowledge? Was it just by doing it? So, and you started in Florida, and what was the decision around that? So for your location, so I no doubt you looked at other areas.
Yeah.
What was the reason to start in Florida?
So like any good franchise system, a key starting point is making sure that you're partnering with the right franchisee. That has to be priority number one. I think that if you get all set up for franchising and you're ready to grow and you've got a marketing budget to bring on new candidates, it can sometimes put you in a position to bring on the wrong person. And you can overcalculate everything. And the beauty of franchising is that the franchisee has that strong local knowledge, so we found that first. This franchisee came to us. He's an Australian. He's been living in Fort Lauderdale for 5 years, and he's followed our brand for years. He was a mate of ours back in the day, and we said
stars aligning, isn't it?
It really is. And he was like, man, I would love to be the first franchisee over here. So we obviously analyzed the market. Florida and Australia are fairly similar, a beach culture. I find anywhere where you've got to take your shirt off and go to the beach, you normally look after yourself a little bit more. And Florida's very, very business friendly. There's no state tax there. You just pay federal tax and stuff. So to answer your question, we kind of use that as the first step, and then we've just been learning the whole time and learning with him. It's for City Cave, our brand is all about collaboration. It has to go both ways. And
so, what were the main challenges then? So, I know we spoke a number of times over the period when you were trips back to Australia and the little aches and pains you were having. What were the main things that you found in establishing there?
I think the biggest thing is understanding like the C Corp / LLC, creating an FDD document that's airtight.
That's franchise disclosure document. And everything, which is different. And it's different for every state, isn't it?
Well, you make slight variations. So you have a master copy, and then you submit it to each state, pay a fee to be allowed to solicit your business there and things like that. So for us, we are only focusing on Texas and Florida at the moment. So we're registered in those states. We can sell and grow there, and we're getting inquiries from other places, but we're just kind of like, our strategy is like crawl, walk, run. We're taking our time. I want to make sure that we take our time with these first 10 locations. These people are going to be in here long term.
It could really cause some serious damage to the brand from a franchise perspective if you don't.
And it's another thing I see international brands doing wrong. They go to America and look at it like it's this massive market, and they start selling one up in New York, one in LA, one in Florida, and you just spread yourself too thin.
You wouldn't do that in Australia.
Exactly.
You wouldn't sell one in Townsville and one in Perth. And one in Melbourne.
And you want to have that brand presence, so you want to have that density, that rule of thumb, 1 + 1 = 3 kind of thing. So we're trying to focus on those smaller densities.
So the main challenges, you reckon? So what sort of things really
legal, getting just like initial company setup, like getting everything in a way where, because we're an Australian business, obviously, but we own the American as well. So for us, there was a lot of work in like the strategic approach to entering the country. And because we're doing it ourselves and not selling a master franchise or anything like that, means that we have to think about fund flow between the countries and what we can do from a protection point of view, what's going to be appealing later on if we need to bring in capital and things like that. So I think the biggest challenge was just the business structuring, and then the cultural stuff, finding franchise owners that are happy to work with us and collaborate and are willing to buy into the brand knowing that we haven't got it all nailed. In Australia, you buy a City Cave, it's like textbook stuff, right? Like we know the locations to go into, we know the price points, we know how to hire people. In America, we don't know that. That's my point I mentioned earlier around having no ego. We don't want to go in letting people think that we have it all buttoned up. But finding good candidates. So I think for me, foundational stuff, strategy, legal, accounting, and then finding good franchise partners that are willing to jump on board and collaborate with you.
I think you're in a bit of a unique position because you're co-founder and you've got Jeremy, who's your other founder as well. So he's looking after the Australian arm, isn't he? I think where a lot of brands from the outside looking in can go wrong is that they get a bit excited about the US or international and take the eye off the ball in Australia.
Yeah.
Because you were 17, you said there. Now, how many you are now in locations?
Yeah, we've got 75 open and we've got about 30 in the pipeline.
So you've got fast growth growing on here,
Yeah.
let alone in the US. So how do you manage that between the two? So is it you just looking after America and Jeremy just looks after here?
Yeah, it's a really good question because Jeremy's doing such a great job here, and we're really fortunate, as you mentioned before, having two founders that are super passionate. We've got similar skill sets, and now Australia, because we've grown and we've got more capital coming in to invest into the brand. It means that Jeremy's got a CFO, full-time CFO working in our office, a full-time COO, and then all of the amazing people that work in our support office. So it is a semi-well-oiled machine here. There's always tweaks and changes, and we're looking for new initiatives and things like that.
Yeah.
But he's been really keeping the lights on, keeping that culture strong. I'm biased because I'm a co-founder, but man, our culture and our company is something that massive brands are envious of. It's so good. And I think that's why being able to split our time, me working on that foundational stuff in America, him keeping things going here has been really good. And we kind of work on this 90-10 rule. And this is what we've done since day one, and it's what advice that I give to people that are coming in and buying a City Cave under a partnership structure. It's like, pick your lane. What are you going to be responsible for? And you can give me 10% input into what I'm doing in America, but I'm going to have 90% say at the end of the day. So we kind of stick to our lanes.
Who has the call.
Yeah, and we respect each other enough to know that I'm not going to make a call that's not advantageous for the franchisee profitability and for the brand as a whole, and I know he won't either. And neither of us, and nobody is a genius. Everybody makes mistakes, and we're accountable to the brand at the end of the day.
Excellent. So how's it all looking now? So that's how we've got to it now, how things are running. So what's the states looking like now? What are the targets? What are the goals? I know you've mentioned them a little bit. Yep. But can you give us some insight on how it's performing?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the States, we've got head of franchise recruitment. We've got an executive coordinator. We've got a fractional president. We've got a production line for our float pools. I'm not sure if you know that, but we build and manufacture our own float pools out of Brisbane. In America, we've just set up
exporting as well.
Well, no, we have now got a production line in Texas.
Oh wow!
So we've kind of got the foundation built. We've got one guy open, another one's about to start construction. We've got a big flood of franchise inquiries coming in, which I know a lot of franchisors say that they're really picky. Man, I am super picky. I'm saying no to 95% of candidates that are coming through. The American way is, can I buy a 20-pack and plug and play? We're not there yet. We need to collaborate with owner-operators in the early stages. So our goal is to get eight open in the next 12 months here in America, and then we'll continue to grow from there. We haven't gone ahead and built out a huge target for America, even though we could see thousands of locations over there. It's that crawl, walk, run. Here in Australia, we'll be at 100 locations by this time next year. We can see ourselves currently, based off the statistics around us, that we can do about 200. So we're nearly halfway through our growth targets
and you're
here.
New Zealand as well, aren't you?
Yeah, we're going to be really ramping up New Zealand in about 12 months' time as well, which is going to be really good. As for other international interest, we're just focused on what we've got on our plate at the moment. And, I know you mentioned it before, just recognizing that Australia is the heartbeat of the brand. Even though we're moving into America and I can see it outgrowing Australia, it's an Australian brand. It's our Brisbane head office is kind of like our worldwide headquarters. And there's a lot of focus on making sure we keep that strong.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Great summary, mate.
Cool.
It's exciting. I look forward to continuing to watch it grow over the next couple of years.
Thanks, Glenn. I appreciate it. Thanks very much.
And that's it for another one of the Franchise Everything podcast. If you like this type of content, you want more, please comment, share, like, subscribe, do all that sort of stuff. Tell everyone about it, and we'll catch you in the next one soon.